Uh-oh, he's in savage mode. All right, so I'm gonna let that steep for about 10 minutes because I like a strong cup of coffee. I am down in LA, I'm delivering paintings. I'm gonna do some painting in Laguna and Malibu, but I thought this might be an opportunity to take a look at some of the paintings in Emma's collection. So first we have this vertical view of the Golden Gate Bridge. This is the North Tower, I believe, the one that's closest to Marin. As if it matters, because they're both basically the same. Anyway, so the story behind this is, I first did a 12 by 12 of this composition about maybe 5 years ago, and I believe I sold it over Instagram. I liked the composition so much that I decided to do a 3 foot by 3 foot for a show at Studio Gallery. You guys know I like to paint super loose, if possible, loose and expressively. I kind of approached it that way at first and it just wasn't working. So what I did was, on my easel, I actually put a board sticking up and I put a nail up above and I attached a string, and I used that string, I would pull that string down, and that's what allowed me to get these perfect angles here. I wouldn't say that I like the process too much because it's not my typical way of painting, but I did like the end product. Anyway, so painting number 2 sold. Emma saw this one on my Instagram and asked if I would do another. So I did another one for her. Okay, so the timer went off. Time to try the coffee. That's good. Taking some of these home with me. I'll fluff it up so she doesn't notice. So I think the idea was, yeah, so the idea I think was to put really high quality coffee in a tea bag. I remember when I used to go camping, we used to get like coffee tea bag type things from Sanka and they were horrible. This is actually really good quality. It's good. Next we have this 20 by 20 tablescape here. And this was just set up as a still life in my studio to do for fun, but then I actually ended up really liking it. I had done like some little portraits of coffee cups with the coffee, and I really liked how you had the shadow and then the sort of warm colors of the coffee in the light with a little highlight. And then I just expanded it out to a larger painting. I don't know if I've ever eaten sunny side up eggs. I'd seen people paint sunny side up eggs before, and it just is a really interesting subject. So that's what I did. And Emma saw this painting somewhere. I think she saw this also on my Instagram. Basically, when she moved in here, she needed paintings, and she kind of went on her Instagram and just said, is this available? How about this one? How about this one? So she just looked through my Instagram and picked her favorites. This one was available. It had been through 2 shows actually, and it didn't sell. So now it is hers and she refuses to part with it. Okay, and then on the side we have these smaller fruit still lifes. I tried to paint the bananas fairly loose but realistically, and then I put this kind of thick strokes of white on the background, but you could see some of the toned panel coming through, and I kind of like that look. Reminds me of the illustrator Leyendecker. Single source light on this one as well, so there's like really strong shadows, but the same thing, kind of going for rich saturation of color in the actual subject matter, and then this thick paint but leaving some of the toned panel shining through. Next we have this large painting here. This one is a 3 foot by 5 foot painting of some Victorians on, I believe it's Laguna Street. This was a fairly technical painting, just like the Golden Gate Bridge. Whenever you're doing architecture, the drawing is the toughest part. It's really hard to also accurately draw proportionally when you're working with a really large canvas. So you can see for scale, when I'm next to it, it's pretty big. So once again, I've put the board going out to the side with a vanishing point, and mainly I used that to make sure that all the tops of the windows were at the right angle. And this was all done freehand. Normally I would measure out something like this, and I don't like doing that. I don't like that process. So with this, I just thought, I'm just gonna freehand it at first. If it doesn't work out, then I will just wipe it out and I'll start over and I'll measure. And to my surprise, it actually worked first time. All right, so if we get up close, you can kind of see that it is fairly loose and suggestive. All right, so another thing that's worth mentioning is the fact that these buildings are primarily backlit. I mean, it's kind of more like a side light, but the front of the buildings are in shadow, and you just get these little pops of light. And what I find is when painting architecture that has light on it, I find that you get a better light effect if the structure is mostly in shadow with little pops of light, as opposed to having a building that's like mostly lit up but with little shadows. Okay, and this is an 11 by 11 of Declan, her kitty. All right, so I painted this for Emma for Christmas this year, and actually painting cats is kind of challenging. My first go at this, I made the eyes too small, and the eyes are really the defining factor, you know, on a cat's face. The other thing that I found that's really tricky is getting the whiskers, putting the whiskers in over whatever coloration there is underneath. Also too, making sure that the fur looks like fur, so there's a lot of soft edges without being too, you know, without overly blending. I wanted there to be brush strokes, but I still wanted to have the look of fur. Okay, so another San Francisco scene. This is a 20 by 20 inch. And I remember one of the most important things to me was getting these Victorians here to sort of recede. So it kind of made them lighter values. And then the things in the foreground, like the cable car and the car here and the street, were darker, higher contrast. Again, still trying to maintain, you know, just loose, suggestive brushwork so that when you're up close, you know, you can see that it's loosely painted, but then when you get back, it kind of looks realistic. All right, I'm gonna be in Southern California for probably about 3 or 4 days, and I plan to paint in Malibu and Laguna, hopefully, so maybe there'll be some plein air videos coming up, fingers crossed. Anyway, as usual, thanks for hanging out, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will see you in the next video.